Welcome back to Casual Bias Rugby, boys, ladies. We've got the same cast as we had for the preview. I only thought it would be right if we do it this way. And as you can see, well, obviously I'm a neutral, but the rest of them have all converted to wearing black. The All Blacks, victors, 24 points to 22 over England at the Alien Stadium. Listen, I thought this game was one of those, which was like, it was a scruffy game, a lot of mistakes and stuff, but it was an utter joy to watch. Who else found that a joy? Rose, what do we think about that game?
I've never been more tense in my life. I would not describe it as a joy to watch. I think that's me just looking back, but it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking and just so tense, especially towards the end. And the first half was actually just a bit frustrating with the constant handling errors from both sides. So it was like, if you were a neutral, I feel like it would have been quite an entertaining game, particularly in the second half. But as an England fan, it was awful. I cried. I literally teared up.
Okay. Fair enough. Aiden, do you share the same sad sentiment that Rose did while watching the game? I see you have a lovely image there in the background. The one that defined the game at the end.
I mean, I'll be honest, I miss when we were winning every game by like 3 tries. It was much less stressful than it is now. I was sitting on the edge of my seat, cursing at the TV for the last 20 minutes of that game, praying for anything because it looked bleak. But then, a little bit of the old All Blacks came back in the last 10 minutes. A try by Talea in the corner, which he had no right to score. That image there, I mean, it's beautiful. Beat 3 defenders to dot it down in the corner. Ice cold McKenzie kicking it from touch. Something George Ford only wishes he could do.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I mean, the game was great. Our handling errors were rubbish. That was disappointing to watch. And we gave away so many penalties. But other than that, exciting game, very nervy. And, that's 3 from 3 against England. 2 at home, 1 away.
Fair enough, right? Like, I like that 3 from 3 because it's an odd situation where a lot of people could possibly say, okay, well, England were the better team in the first test, in the second test, and the third test, but yet they never got a victory. Like, Jake, you mentioned it yesterday. You went live on TikTok, right? And you mentioned it, like in the past 12 months, you lost about 7 games within a score. You've done it again this weekend. It's rugby heritage now. How are you feeling? How are you feeling, Jake?
Past 13 months, what is it? Like 5 losses, 3 to New Zealand, 1 to you lot, and 1 to France. And it's just like I just have depression now. I'm a sad person. I can't take it because it's all in the last 10 minutes as well. We just can't see out games. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the subs, the bench isn't strong enough, but it's very annoying.
Yeah, watch Australia do the same thing next weekend as well. Anyway.
No, absolutely not.
Listen, Aiden, we spoke about it right before the game. We spoke about New Zealand struggling to get points in the last 20 minutes, right? England's got the same issue, and this time, you guys did it, right? You guys did it. You made the comeback, 8 points. I mean, imagine, how does it feel to be George Ford, right? Like, I'm not going to blame the guy for everything. Marcus Smith playing the game of his life. I think he was absolutely sensational. He ran that game from start till he went off. 65 minutes, he goes off. George Ford comes on, George Fraud, and he's the 5th vice captain. Misses the match-winning tackle, misses the match-winning penalty kick, misses the match-winning drop goal. Imagine, like, Aiden.
Can I like chip in here? I don't want to see loads of George Ford hate. I think that was a bit of a selection issue. He just come back from injury, and that like the pass out like to the drop goal wasn't great. The tackle was bad. Fair enough, but like. That does not reflect who he is as a player. He was coming back from injury. Obviously, Smith was better, and it would be nice to see him play a full 80. But I hate the online hate I'm seeing at the moment. It's so brain dead.
I mean, yeah, I kind of agree. Like, there's a lot of things that go into winning or losing a test match.
Yeah.
Sure, those are the obvious points that you can, stop the clock and look at of 3 instances. But, there's a lot of things that lead up to that.
10
And
minutes.
realistically, they should have got the drop goal easily because they had a scrum 5 meters out in front of the posts. Times out of 10.
Harry Randall hung him out to dry. Harry Randall hung him out to dry with that pass.
Yeah, and you can't get dominated in an attacking scrum 5 meters out to set up a drop goal. That's as much the whole forward pack's error as it is George Forwards and Harry Randall. I mean, I'm more concerned about the fact they got 5 or 6 vice captains because that doesn't give you a bunch of confidence of having a leader on the pitch to go and speak to the ref. Jamie George is incredible at speaking to the ref, and he really got them with the ref, I think.
You know what the thumbnail should actually be? Jamie George's smile after the Haka and Jamie George like this after the game. Just the comparison before. Let's talk about the Haka. Jake, I'll come straight to you. I thought that set the tone beautifully. I think when we hear about the Haka, we hear that the All Blacks talk about it. They always talk about laying the challenge down. I thought England's response was scintillating. That step forward. New Zealand came forward as well. It set the tone. It told you this was going to be a mammoth clash. That's exactly what we got, in my opinion. I thought it was a great game. Jake, what were your thoughts on? He doesn't even want to be here.
I mean, it was a good response, but I think World Rugby had these laws where you can't go past the halfway line because you've got all the cameramen lying down like sausages in front of them, so they want to get that camera shot. Whereas they can't go right up to it like they did in 2011, like the French team. But it was a good Haka. Like the crowd singing "Swing Low" was cool as well. Lots of Kiwis absolutely lost their heads at being sung as well during the Haka. So I say grow up to them. But it was a good response. Like the game, it sort of like set the tone, and you just know it's going to be like a massive clash. And I liked it from England.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that kind of like went against what we predicted at the start. I mean, England's scrum was a lot better throughout the game than it was with Finn Baxter them coming on. I thought Will Stewart had a great game. Jamie George held his own in the scrum, and then obviously Ellis Genj as well. Like they had the upper hand at scrum time. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like it was crazy. And then the guys that should have just I was watching that final scrum and thinking, well, it's Finn Baxter. The guys that can actually scrum, they should hold this one. Set up, either go for the penalty or set up a nice, easy drop goal at the end. Got crunched in there. Harry Randall's shitty pass. And that's all she wrote. Aiden?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it was sort of everything we didn't predict. Like those guys that started that we all thought would struggle for 60 minutes were brilliant for 60 minutes. And the two that we thought were their best scrummagers came on and looked a lot weaker with our reserve props that came on at the same time. So it was a little bit of a bizarre one, but I guess that's credit to the atmosphere that they played in as well. Obviously, that Twickenham crowd was booming that game. I think they really stood up to the occasion. It's a little unfortunate that their reserves didn't. But yeah, I think the coach, Steve Borthwick's going to look at that game and think he could have done a few things differently. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. He's obviously looking at that game, trying to get ahead, bring forward on and close out the game, which is what happened.
So what would you have done differently?
No, but that was the correct move in my opinion.
Yeah, so obviously that went to plan for 60 minutes. Everything had gone to plan. Like they got their lead that they were looking after, and then Ford comes on as that enforcer. He just holds it all down. You could see him in the game just trying to calm everyone down.
Yeah.
And that was working, but then it was just, I think it's a tactical error because when you make the decision to go from playing attacking rugby and trying to play with the ball to let's defend this lead, especially against a team like New Zealand, you're just opening yourself up to these counter-attacks.
Can I ask what attacking rugby we were playing? Because we didn't score a try except for an intercept.
No, you didn't, but you were trying, for the first half anyways, it looked like you were trying to play more with the ball in hand. You guys went full defensive, park the bus mode.
Jake, you can't say that you guys didn't look like you were trying to attack.
We didn't.
You guys...
We had 2 advantages in the first half and we took drop goals. That is not trying to attack.
Yeah,
It's not doing
yeah.
that.
But overall, you guys looked a lot more threatening with Marcus Smith on the pitch. You just the threat
Yeah.
of Marcus Smith there, because you know he can carry it himself. He can either kick it or he can spread the line.
Yeah, so
that is what he's doing. Forward does not offer you that at all.
The best our attack has looked all year was against France and Ireland, and George Ford was at 10.
But for that game specifically, Marcus Smith passed it 9 times and ran 9 times, which means 50% of the time he's looking to break the line. And George Ford, when he was playing, he didn't run the ball once. So you go from 50% of the time trying to make something to 0% of the time trying to make something, which means you've changed tactically to, park up their defense, which was great for most of that game. But if you just take away all of your attack and just play for territory and keep giving New Zealand ball, you're just opening yourself up to these wonderful in the corner tries happening like this, because we're just going to keep trying to do it and eventually it works.
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, like, as Jake just mentioned, I don't think bringing on Ford was the wrong decision. I thought it was the right one. Obviously, Rose just mentioned it earlier as well. Like, you want to see when is Marcus Smith going to play that full 80 minutes, right? But bringing on Ford when you have an 8-point lead that can slot the penalties, slot the drop goals, and those type of things, that wasn't a bad move. You could see what the plan was. He had to secure the game. The issue was England was so under the pump in that last 15 minutes that they just cracked, right? And then all of a sudden, Ford couldn't do the job that he was brought up to do. So I'm not going to blame the guy for the loss. Obviously, the whole team lost it at the end. Rose, what was your thoughts initially when you saw George Ford coming on? Did you think, okay, now we should have this in the bag from here on forward?
I mean, obviously, it was a little surprising considering how well Smith had been playing, but obviously fatigue plays a big role in that, and it is difficult to expect him to play like that for another 15 minutes. Like, he was putting everything into that game, and he was obviously knackered by the time Ford came on. I was excited to see Ford come on partly. Obviously, it was a bit worrying because he's just come back from injury, and you didn't really know how he was going to play. Also, being a Sale fan, I see him quite a lot. And over the past couple of months, obviously he's been injured, so we haven't seen him in the past couple of games. His kicking actually hasn't been as reliable. And obviously we see Ford as this figure who's a very reliable kicker and can manage the game very well. And while that is true for the most part, recently, something's been slightly off. So I feel like you almost don't have that security in the same way that you used to with Ford. So obviously, he's a great figure. He's a good guy to have on the pitch. But I was a bit tense seeing him come on for those reasons. I think he did all right. Like I said before, we shouldn't blame him for the loss of the game. A team loses you the game, not one player. We should have, was that Aiden said or Jake said? Those 2 attempted drop goals from Marcus Smith were pretty abysmal. And nobody's really bringing them up when we're talking about who didn't play well in the game. And they were far worse attempts. And that's not to say he didn't have a brilliant game, but you don't really see anybody bringing that up. So, yeah, we should have tried to capitalise when we were in good attacking positions earlier on in the game. You can't blame one player for a loss. So I did have a lot of sympathy for the guy. He looked kind of defeated at the end. But, I think England played well. It's just a pattern at the moment that we can't close out games, and it's slightly worrying.
Apparently, some fans thought those were chip and chases. There were so poor attempts at drop kicks in the stadium. That's how bad they were.
An interesting point that I think is worth bringing up is, what do you guys feel, Rose and Jake specifically, about your rush defense? Because it's happened many times now, and I think that example Jake brought up about 5 games in the last 13 months. The rush defense is brilliant for 60 minutes. But you guys always and consistently looked gassed out in the last 15. Your forwards go from putting in amazing shifts, like Atoje was brilliant. Martin played pretty well. Your front row stood up. Obviously, they got subbed off at around 60, so it doesn't really affect them. But the rest of the forward pack went from basically dominating the set piece to struggling in the set piece. And that's got to be down to that rush defense.
But, Aiden, before they go, right, that is... They played a 6-2 split. Dude, they bring on 6 new forwards. For them to... I agree with you that they look dead, out on their feet near the end of games. That is unacceptable when your guys only play about 25 minutes coming off the bench. That is crazy. I've never seen a team drop off in terms of looking fit like that. You look at that game in New Zealand that they played, the second game when Bowden Barrett just absolutely schooled them, right? Dude, I have never seen guys that tired on a rugby pitch. How is that even possible? They're not even playing in crazy heat or anything. It blows my mind. Our team just drops off like that. We saw it against South Africa in the World Cup as well.
I think a lot of it has to do with who's coming on. I mean, you're taking off Cunningham South and Tom Curry, who were probably the two best forwards, maybe with Itoje for England, around the park. And then you're bringing on Dombran and Ben Curry, who are both not as proven as, Cunningham South and Tom Curry are kind of.
We need Underhill. I will keep calling for Underhill until we have.
I get that for the game that we just played, but it's a consistent theme. And like the one in New Zealand, the second one, as I said in one of our later videos, Itoje was brilliant, like incredible for 65 minutes. And then all of a sudden forgot how to play rugby in the last 15.
Could we just say, you're saying we're falling off at the end of games, but in the two games you beat us in, I don't think you scored a try in the last 20 minutes. You didn't score a try. You scored one try yesterday, but that was because of, a George Ford individual error. It wasn't because of a rush defence mistake, So I don't think this tired thing is really true.
But you can see with your game just drops off completely. Right? Like New Zealand haven't scored the tries, but you're telling me that if you play against another team and you start loafing around the field like that, they won't smash you with points.
I don't think that's necessarily only been the case for England. If you watch that Ireland and the France games from the Six Nations, we played pretty well the whole games. I know we lost to France, but we played brilliantly in that game. I agree with Jake. I think selection does play a big part. You want aggressive figures coming off the bench towards the end of the game, and I don't think Don Brand offered that at all. Ben Curry obviously did win the ball as soon as he came on, but that was a bit controversial. He probably shouldn't have been awarded that. But I think Don Brand especially, he's past it. He's not in his prime anymore. Give that position to somebody else. We have so much depth in the back row. It's insane.
You better hope players. Jack Willis doesn't sign that contract with Toulouse. You can have
but even without Jack Willis, we have the players.
Yeah, we've got Tom Willis, mate. He's even better. So let's just calm down.
Listen, talking about elite back rows, I feel like we focused a lot on England now.
Yeah.
The All Blacks have two Adi surveyors. This guy, Wallace Satiti. If this guy isn't breakthrough player of the year, I don't know what is wrong. He is sensational. And Aiden, you know what's scary? This guy wasn't even picked, right? He just came through because there was injuries. It was just a charity case thrown in there. He's probably the first name on your team sheet at the moment. If I had to pick between Wallace Satiti currently and Adi Surveyor, who's currently World Player of the Year, Wallace Satiti every day of the week. This guy is unstoppable.
It's unreal that a guy of his age, he's 22, his first start for the All Blacks was against South Africa, in South Africa, and almost had a man of the match performance, is unheard of. He backs it up with his games later in the Rugby Championship, then goes to England into an intimidating crowd. Playing at Twickenham is tough. The fans are boisterous, they're loud, and didn't seem to bother him one bit. He made more meters than anybody on the field, including the backs. He made 4 line breaks, 4 offloads. What more can you want from a Lucy? He is special, and I absolutely love him.
Yeah.
He was scary. Every time he got the ball, I was my whole body tensed up. He was pretty terrifying. He looked amazing. Adi played well, but looked not invisible next to him, but the comparison was kind of crazy. He looked like the better player that game. He was just insane.
In my opinion, I'd just go, if I had to pick the All Blacks team, I'd go Ethan Blackadder at 6. Aiden, I don't want to steal your source. You said it this morning as well, but I loved what you said. Ethan Blackadder 6, Adi Surveyor at 7, Wallace Satiti at 8.
I mean, it would just
that
be
cooks.
Yeah, because Ethan Blackadder,
he's like a faulty Richie McCaw.
When he's not bloody injured, which is all the bloody time, unfortunately, he is the best enforcer we have. He is so physical, and he just throws himself at the offense and defense, which is probably why he gets injured all the time.
Does he give you McCaw vibes as well?
Yeah, a little bit.
Something about him screams McCall to me, but I mean, I could be overplaying
No,
it.
Blackadder gives me more of like a white Jerome Kino vibe.
Let's see.
He does. He's so physical, and he just throws himself at the defense. Like some of the hits he put on in South Africa were ridiculous. I mean, he bottled a try, but other than that, he's special too.
Well, obviously, the news has come out now that Beauden Barrett out with a concussion, Cody Taylor out with a concussion. The guy that I've been calling for, Billy Proctor, gone home. I think his wife's gone into labour, if I'm not mistaken. So, but you've got a couple of boys coming through. What are you thinking? Does that mean DMAC goes to 10, and that's basically all she wrote, or what's going on? What happens for Friday night against Ireland?
They'll have to bring DMAC in. They've brought in Ruben Love already, which I'm excited for. So that he'll probably go straight to the bench. Then you have, well, depends on what they do with Perifetta, but you're either going to have Perifetta or Ruben Love in the 23 jersey, DMAC at 10, Will Jordan at 15, and then swap them out when necessary. I'm interested to see how Geordie goes because he looked a bit sore when he came off the field quite early for him. So, yeah.
Well, Anton Lennon-Brown might have a red card. So he's not going to play. So Geordie Barrett will have to play. Otherwise, there's no Billy Proctor. There's no Geordie Barrett. You don't have another 12, do you? Who's there that can fill that 12 gap?
Quinn Tupaia could come from All Blacks 15. He was an ex-starting All Black. So if we really need to, we can bring him in.
Overall, what did you guys think? Let's go to you, Jake. What did you think about the All Blacks game overall, and what do you think of them going into, let's say, Ireland and France, which will obviously be their main opponents that's left?
I mean, I didn't think they're that good, to be honest. I really don't think All Blacks are that good. I think they lost the physicality battle. You know, I thought the England forwards were beating them up a bit. They lost the territory battle. Their kicking game wasn't really on point, but they had some nice moves in attack. They were like sort of, I don't know, what's the word? Clinical in attack.
So they lost everything but the game. They lost everything. They lost every single battle except for the game.
Well, I mean, like, they got 3 tries, and for me, they all come from individual errors from England players. I don't think they were outstanding, and going against a better oiled team like Ireland, they will get smashed if they play like that.
I think they looked quite dangerous with ball in hand. I thought they had some players who played really, really well. I do get your point. I think the amount of penalties conceded was by far the biggest issue, and handling as well. You guys just, like, when you had ball in hand, like when it was going well, but you dropped it a lot. And the discipline was crazy. Like, how many points did we kick from your penalties? Like,
almost all of them.
Yeah, literally almost all of them. Like 15, which is kind of mad. And especially in the first half, what was it? 8 penalties conceded? That is not a good statistic. So I think if the All Blacks can stop dropping the ball and stop giving away silly penalties, which I know are 2 quite significant things, but they'd give Ireland, like, they'd be really threatening to Ireland.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the penalty count was absurd. Like, that you cannot be doing that in an international game of rugby. But to go back to Jake's point about him thinking it was individual errors from England, I think you got to look at it from a 5-phase perspective, because a lot goes into that to getting those players in those positions. You think Genge was beaten 2 times because they knew where he was on the field. Like Mark Talia on the wing with Genge as his opposition.
That was George Furbank who's made the error. I'm heartbroken that George Furbank has bitten in unnecessarily and lets TT get an offload away. That is not Genge. Genge shouldn't have to be covering Furbank.
But also then, okay, even if that is the case, the second try where Will Jordan scored, I told you, Ratimer goes right and pulls in George Martin. That takes the defender out of the left pocket by the ruck.
I know you're saying Ratimer does, like, no, he goes right and Beauden Barrett comes around, but just George Martin being slow. Like, he's the last one to notice that it's going the other way, I think he's a great player. He's brilliant, but it's his mistake. It's not Genge doing a mistake.
No, but he's blinded.
Jake,
by
you
the
can
light.
say this. You can
Point.
say
He's
this
not.
for any try in the world, right? There's someone going to be making a mistake, and there's someone going to be doing well, right? You even think about your try with Faye right? That's a brilliant read by Marcus Smith. If Ratama just looks up, you'd see Marcus Smith is already next to my player that I'm passing to. So there's always going to be a mistake made somewhere. You have to actually give the credit somewhere for the All Blacks to expose George Furbank and not realize, okay, well, it's Genge outside where he's going to get skinned.
I don't. Because there's ones like, Bowden Barrett did a chip over and then he managed to regather it. And that's sort of utilising that there's a space and that maybe a gap in England defence and sort of the crossfield kicks they're doing early on in the game. That's sort of our defensive issues. There's one where Geordie Barrett just goes through a cap in their own 22. But these ones, I think, for the tries were individual errors, not England's system, I think.
Yeah, but I think you're looking at it too close to the actual event, like especially in long phase build-up. Like when you have the ones that score wide, it's because they move it left and right in the middle of the pack until they notice that a player is out of position. And that's what these teams do all this research for, is so they can execute on those. And they do hundreds of hours of research, and it maybe only comes across.
Having Genge cover on the touchline, no prop should be there. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's you'd see flankers and stuff, guys that are a bit agile, they sometimes find themselves there. Not a prop. Not a prop having to catch Mark Telea there. He will skin him all day. And he didn't even just skin him. He blasted past him like it was nothing. Genge was nowhere to be found. Nowhere.
Again, it's George Furbank's mistake. Don't want to talk about Genge.
Yeah. But why was Genge even there? Like, why is Genge the last line of defense on the wing?
It's just a forward folding round. Like that's probably like another one, a couple of meters behind. But it's again, Furbank should not be tackling Thingy, like whoever had the ball of Satiti. He should trust Tommy Freeman to make that tackle, which he did.
Yeah,
and then he messed it up. We don't need to talk about Genge.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying, right? Like you can't just blame everything on the one guy. Right, you have to give. You can blame Furbank for that, but obviously the All Blacks exposed that as well. That's why Satiti broke that line, because he was like, "Okay, if I can pull in both, I can get that all float away." So you have to give credit to Satiti and Telea for spotting that.
Jake's trying to like also defend the point that it's not necessarily an inherent issue within England's defensive system.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
No, I know it's not what you're trying to say.
Great. They had Felix Jones.
It is the All Blacks. Like it's a credit to them that they managed to draw Furbank in, whatever. But I don't think it's necessarily a discredit to England. But I know that's not what you're saying.
The first try comes from a penalty New Zealand got for a bullshit offside, by the way, which was ridiculous. It's a line out, and you got two phases, and you get it to CTT, and he does the offload to Telea. If George Furbank doesn't bite in, or if he does, at least stop the offload. We're not talking about this. It's not even a try. It's no a genius All Black sort of, we went 20 phases and we sucked in defenders here. It's an individual error from George Furbank. That's all it is.
If we're going to talk about offsides, there was plenty in the second half.
Listen, Angus Gardner didn't have his best game, right? Like there was a couple of very big knock-on missed calls. I mean, look at, what was that? Ben Curry or Tom Curry? Dude, the guy was doing the creepy crawly with his hand there and the other hand just like tickling the ball, and he gave it. I was like, what is going on? Ben Earl at the funniest moment. That guy dived in. He was a pro Olympic diver, diving in shoulders first, right? Lost grasp just to make it look better after the guy's already gone. Shows on the TV that he actually tried to grab. That is ridiculous. And then also, who was it? Was it Henry Slater and Tom or Ben Curry once again that made a tackle on Will Jordan? But Will Jordan tries to get the pop pass away, just mis-executes the pop pass. But they acted after that like they just won the game. With that tackle, I think they had like a misconception of what actually happened there. Aiden, do you remember that when you guys counterattacked in your own 22? I was like, why are they celebrating like this? Because if they got that ball away, that's try time all day long for the All Blacks. And that had nothing to do with the tackle.
Yeah, I'm all for the like celebrating the little moments, but it does seem like sometimes they get like a little over the top. Like the one at the end where they got the scrum to potentially win the game. Sure, celebrate that, even though it was not their doing. Tui Pelotu just dropped it cold.
But you can't celebrate it and then put in a performance like that at the scrum.
Yeah,
Right
that's
after.
the embarrassing part. Is they were like off their heads excited and then got
Shocker.
dominated at the scrum. But yeah, I'm all for like the celebrating the little things. It brings excitement into the game. It hypes everyone up. You just got to back it up. You know, if you win a penalty, make something of it.
What?
I would just say, sorry, you just said the name there, Casual, like Henry Slade. He's played 50 minutes of Premiership rugby, and the fact that no one's talking about him having a bad game means he did pretty solid. So I think no one's
he did. He played
giving him
pretty
credit.
well.
So I think that's fair play to him.
Some of the England players played brilliantly. It's like interesting. Well, obviously Satiti was amazing, but like R6 as well was phenomenal. Cunningham South played brilliantly. I think those two were the best players on the pitch.
An underrated game.
Pardon?
Ollie Lawrence had an underrated game. I saw a stat. He made 23 tackles. Inside centre.
Bro,
what is he doing?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like that's a shift, and you got to credit that. Like that's part of their defense and why it's so good. But I could not believe when I read that he made 23 tackles at inside centre. That's absurd.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I also just want to bring up the fact that I feel like Itoje did have a bit of a drop-off period a while back, and people were like, is he ever going to be back on form? Is he ever going to be the player he once was? He was immense in that game as well, and he was in previous games, but I feel like he really solidified it in that game against the All Blacks. He was brilliant. He was just so ferocious. Pardon?
Second best lock in the world.
After?
Carl Byrne.
You're going to piss Casual off with that comment.
That's true.
I agree. He looked so scary that game, so threatening. So yeah, he was great as well. If you just kicked him off.
I will not allow slander like this. Look at this guy depressed. He will never make a mistake like that again. You will never do that. This is not democratic, okay?
That's a dictatorship.
This is a dictatorship.
No.
But yeah, you guys had some real standout.
No, listen. Mario Itoje is playing some great rugby, and it's not even recently, right? Like we started talking about Mario Itoje getting his form back. What was it, a season and a half ago now already?
Yeah, but I feel like this game he just really solidified it for England.
Yeah.
At that
No,
level.
in the end, right? Like I don't think England played bad at all. If you take away some of the handling errors from both teams, I thought this was a great game. It was purely it was a joy to watch as a neutral. I know some people said it was a shit game and whatever.
No,
I thought everyone was up for it. I thought there was massive heats. We saw Amua absolutely smoking Feiwaboso into another world. Crazy. I just loved watching this game. I mean, I was eating a sushi buffet. I was stuffing my face, just watching the rugby. Couldn't take my eyes off it. I didn't even have anything with this game. I couldn't care less who won or lost this game. No, but it was a great watch.
My adrenaline after the game, I'm not even kidding. Afterwards, I was like this for a solid 5 minutes. I don't know what your Aiden and Jake, I don't know what your reactions were to that final 5 minutes, but I was stood a meter away from the television, screaming, and I don't think I've ever felt heartbreak like I did when we didn't win. But it was intense. Did you guys have similar reactions? Because I was so on edge.
I mean, for the last 20 minutes, I was having palpitations in all parts of my body. That was horrible. I couldn't focus. I felt so sick in the last 20 minutes. I just couldn't handle it. And then it just went all wrong, and I just cried.
Yeah, it was bizarre because I think we probably had in the last 20 minutes, we were probably feeling different things at different points. With what was it? Probably 20 minutes to go. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, how have we got to this position? And I was begging for anything to go our way. And obviously there was a few penalties that didn't go our way and we ended up back by our try line. And I'm thinking, oh, I can't believe we're going to lose to England. And then we scored in the corner and I'm like, oh my God, amazing. And then the kick went over and it was incredible. And then my uncle came up to watch it with me and he was obviously ahead of me somehow. And he just said, I know something you don't. I went, what does that mean? And so I was just sitting there waiting for whatever that was meant to come. But it was Anton Leonard-Brown's yellow card. And then, sitting watching that kick, I'm like, I don't like wishing for someone to miss, but I was wishing for him to miss.
Don't get too rowdy, Aiden. That's pretty poor behaviour.
And then it just played out the way it did. And yeah, relief is the word that I would
Yeah.
describe.
This game was full of twists and sorry, Rose, you can go.
I was just going to bring up one thing because obviously you brought up the later yellow card that happened. But how, in God's name, was that? What's his name? The knock
Caleb
on.
Clark, the knockdown.
Yeah,
the knockdown.
yeah. How was it not a yellow card?
I know that's that. Angus got
How?
that.
Any day of the week, that's a knock-on.
He didn't have
No,
his
that's a yellow
greatest
card.
day at the office.
It was
No,
a
it's
yellow
a
card, wasn't it?
blatant yellow card. It's a blatant yellow
They
card.
gave yellow card. Oh no, they didn't, did they?
No,
They didn't.
Not for the deliberate knock-on, no.
Caleb Clark didn't get a yellow card for his.
I was Anton
knockdown.
Lennon-Brown. Yeah, sorry. That's a
Anton
yellow
Lennon
card.
Brown got 2 yellow cards. Well,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably the quickest
Easton
2 yellow
another-
cards you've ever seen.
Hey?
That's probably the quickest back-to-back yellow cards anyone has ever received.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he can be lucky like that he didn't get sent off for the one and then get sent off for the other, because that would have obviously been a red card because you can't get 2 yellows. So it's just fortunate enough for him.
That Caleb Clark not getting sent off is actually the biggest bullshit I've ever seen.
I know.
That's crazy.
That's
I
the
forgot
type
about
of thing that
that.
changes
It's
games.
diabolical.
Like,
It is crazy.
no, but that is the type of thing that affects games. I'm never one to like blame the referee, but it is calls like that where like there is the potential for a team to go down to 14 for 10 minutes. That changes the course
Just be
of
happy
games.
that try didn't stand because they scored a try off it.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll wrap up. But before we do that, I'll come to each and every one of you guys, and you guys can just say what your expectations are for New Zealand after this weekend, going on to the next ones, and then the same for England. Rose, let's start off with you. If you look at the performance of England, what do you think you need to improve on going up against, especially Australia next weekend, and then obviously South Africa?
I think against Australia, it would be a really good idea to test out Smith for a full 80. I know that they probably won't do that because they might want to rest him and have a bit more form for the South Africa game. But still, I feel like I'm not trying to discredit Australia at all because I know they have been showing signs of improvement. But I feel like we've got this one in the bag. We played pretty well. I know there were errors. But I feel like England will. Ava's making faces. I feel like we will win this one fairly comfortably. I think a couple of the bench calls need to change, and I think maybe keep Smith on. I'd be interested to see whether Finn Smith gets a look in this week after Ford not playing especially well. Maybe him coming off the bench. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I think we'll do well against Australia. I'm not too disheartened by that performance in itself. Like obviously it was a heartbreaking result, but I was pretty pleased with how England played overall.
Yeah, before I ask you to give your opinion on New Zealand as well, I forgot to bring it up. You guys know what rule actually came in that I really enjoyed yesterday? Is when the bombs go up into the air, they have to give access. There's no obstruction or wall, the Great Wall of China being built in front of it like we saw Ireland do against South Africa or anything. You see a fair contest, it opens up the game because whoever takes that ball clean, the defense better be up for it.
I think they've also added a rule like at the box kick in the ruck, you can't have people stand in front of the 9. I think apparently
it's great. Every kick should be able to be contested out of the air and out of the from the foot. That makes it so much better because you get, for instance, Pieter-Steph du Toit always stands in front of our kicker, bro. How are you gonna move Pieter-Steph du Toit or come around this massive piece of human to actually charge that ball down? You're never gonna do that. So it just makes it more. It puts pressure on those easy clearances out of the 22 and all those other rubbish. By the way, I just wanted to bring that up. I really enjoyed watching that. Makes it more competitive. Rose, let's actually first finish off with England. So let's go to Jake. What do you want to see in the coming weeks from your country?
I mean, I think a lot's been talked about the defence. I see for me that there are more individual errors for the key tries and just like concentration things, which the individuals have to step up. I'm more worried about the attack. I mean, they didn't try to attack very much ball in hand. And they just didn't look, in the 22, they didn't look patient and structured. So this is Australia, it should be an easier game. I want them to really play a ball in hand when we get into the sort of near the 22. I want them to properly go through some phases, work on some shapes. And I want Finn Smith to start. I think he's better than, I think he's better than Lolosio. I think he's probably better than Donaldson. So whoever he's playing against, I want Finn Smith to start for England and really take it to the Aussies.
Who would you have on the bench at 10? like in the 10.
Marcus.
You'd have okay.
For this game, yeah.
I don't dislike that shout actually.
Fair enough, Aiden.
I'll touch on England as well before I go to New Zealand, because they have a lot that they can improve on, and that's a good thing in my mind, because they did a lot of things well, and we've talked about it previously that they're probably one of the best teams at disrupting teams' attack. Like, they just make it ugly, and that's part of the reason we had so many handling errors, and it always happens against England. So I think if they can combine that on defense with the attack that Jake's just talked about, they are going to be a serious contender. And I know it's only a short turnaround for Australia, but I think they can do a lot of work-ons in that. And then obviously they play South Africa. And, 2 weeks is a long time, and they could be a very different team come facing South Africa. But for my team, a win's a win. We're 2 from 2 now. We have a lot to improve on for next week, but it isn't one particular area. It is just ball handling and penalties. Get rid of those. You take away the fire from the other team and force them to play more attacking rugby, which is, I think, what we defend better. If we keep giving away penalties like that, we're going to get kicked to death at the Aviva. And so,
what's your official prediction for the game?
No. We'll run another podcast in a week.
But yeah,
don't worry, people. We'll be here every week for the autumn nations talking about this stuff. Might see some other cast members. It's just the casting couch, but it is.
What's about New Zealand? Like, the big worry against Ireland is the breakdown. That's Ireland's strongest point and the best in the world at the breakdown. So your forwards, especially Scott Barrett, Tupovayo, or maybe, I don't know if he's playing, Tupelotu, they're going to have to be clearing out quickly. They need to be supporting and need to be careful rolling away, because Ireland love trapping players in. That's their bread and butter. Absolute dark arts at the breakdown. And you talk about they lost many penalties to England. Lots of them were, again, England being better at the breakdown, more physical, and also the tackles off the ball, which Ireland love also, those sort of patterns and lots of options. So that's where New Zealand have got to really sharpen up. Yeah,
I agree. It is small things, but it's a lot of small things, and they do pile up. Giving away 8 penalties in the first half is silly. Like, it's a joke considering England gave away 1. But yeah, you're right. The breakdown's going to be really important. The last time we played them, obviously that quarterfinal, that's where we excelled, and that's where we sort of got the upper hand in the game, and we were able to hold it out. But it's a big ask for those forwards. Lots of young guys, so hopefully they can step up.
Yeah, and for Euros, just talking about New Zealand, what do you think needs a bit of improvement? What stood out for you against England?
They obviously have some really threatening players. Like, if you get Satisi playing like he was, I thought Talaya had a really good game, and I haven't heard loads of people speaking about him, but he looked scary when he had the ball. They've got the players to do it. It's just the penalties. Like, I see that green screen. Get it off the screen. It's just the penalties. I think that was even more prevalent than the handling errors, because, well, especially for a team like England and Ireland, who are quite attacking but still not on the same level as New Zealand are. They need to stop allowing teams into the game through penalties. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
So if they just stop being silly, if they calm down a little bit, they have a very good chance.
Ireland loves their set piece, so you can't be ill-disciplined to them. They're very structured. They love playing off their set pieces in terms of like a line-out or a scrum. That backline flows, that first face ball that they get, scary. Anyway, we'll wrap it up over here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We do appreciate. We love and appreciate you guys. And we will see you in the week for round 2 of the Autumn Nation series. So stay tuned. Bye-bye.